If you're new to this channel, you might have clicked this video because you think I'm gonna carpool over the Switch, and you'll probably take a dump in the comments section. And hopefully press the subscribe button, wink wink. But if you took a look at my other videos, you'd realize that I'm bordering Nintendo fanboy territory with all the nice things I have to say about the Switch. And as far as trying to build a case that I'm not a Nintendo fanboy goes, it probably doesn't help that my best friend's the series creator of Mario, Zelda, and Steel Diver, Reggie Fils-Aimé-san. But the truth is that while I do love the Nintendo Switch and think it's currently the best console, there's plenty of things about N-Dog's Hybrid that either could have been done better, or that I flat out hate. So Reggie and Miyamoto-san, if you're watching this, then stop right now. Because today I'm gonna be a dick and tell everybody the 7 worst things about the Nintendo Switch. Number 7. Having to type my password in every time I visit the eShop. Why do I have to do this if I just want to browse? I'm sure the idea is probably to get us to put our passwords in now so we won't have to later if we decide to make impulse buys. But if somebody's in the same room, they'll see my passwords on the screen and hack my MySpace page. It'd be like going to the Nintendo store in New York City and having a hunk at the door asking if you plan to buy anything and kicking you out if you're just wanting to look around. It's smart of Nintendo, but annoying as hell for my goofy ass. Number 6. The battery can suck my butt. 2 to 3 hours is fair, all things considered, I guess. But just remember to bring your 3DS if you're on a 10-hour plane ride to Japan. Otherwise, you'll have to watch a devil's advocate with the guy next to you and see Keanu Reeves' hairy ass. Number 5. If the tablet were an ass hair bigger, the Switch wouldn't even be portable. Along with the battery leaving a lot to be desired, this makes the Switch just not as portable as most other handhelds. I've talked about this before, but it is kind of a bummer to have to say goodbye to the days of putting a handheld gaming device in your pocket. It is cool that the Switch could be played anywhere, and it's not huge or anything, but it's big enough to not be able to forget you're carrying it around, which I guess isn't a bad thing. It'd just be cool if they made a portable Switch Mini that had a clamshell design or something.
Heavy as hell, but that's a good thing. Some of these light
handheld devices
can bounce out of your pocket. Come on. You kidding me? Get this wedged in there.
Number 4. The occasional force motion controls. I think good motion controls can make games better when done right, but Nintendo's Wii gets way too hard at the idea of sneaking motion controls into games when nobody's looking. Luckily, it's very minimal in Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, but if I don't slap Nintendo's hand now and politely but firmly tell them to stop, things might get worse. They hyped motion controls up back in the Wii era, and everybody was on board at first, but got sick of it pretty quick. And then Nintendo was like, alright, you don't have to use them anymore, but maybe just try a little bit here. Oh, okay. Put it away, Nintendo. No means no. Number 3. The internal storage sucks. 32 gigabytes of internal storage would be fine if it were only used for downloading full games, but most games have so much extra data you have to download on day one that you need an SD card. They're easy to install, but it sucks that you have to pay more than what was initially advertised, which leads me to number 2. The Switch is more expensive than it claims to be. $300 is a fair price for a Nintendo console that launched within the past year. However, to get the full experience, there's add-ons that are almost essential, like the aforementioned SD card if you want to be able to play more than one AAA game that costs at least $40 extra, and the Joy-Cons being put into this weird-ass thing just isn't as comfortable as the Pro Controller. And the Switch doesn't come with a game, so there's another $30 to $60 right there. So with the Switch, a game, and an SD card, your $300 becomes $400, and that's not including the Pro Controller, since it's technically not required. But trust me, you're really gonna want it. So if you're not some kind of barbaric savage and need a civilized controller, that's $470 before tax. Meanwhile, you can buy the standard model of an Xbox One or PS4 with a game for only $300. All I'm saying is that the Switch is not really the cheapest console on the market right now. But before I get to number 1, I want to go over some dishonorable mentions real quick that I couldn't bring myself to put on the list. Things like the Switch's graphical capabilities. I mean, it's not as powerful as the PS4 or Xbox One, which means that multiplats being ported over usually require some sacrifices. But I just couldn't bring myself to put it on the list, since the sacrifices I've seen thus far aren't really big enough for me to care. I always say graphics are less important now than ever before, and since Nintendo was hell-bent on the Switch not costing more than $300, I think the graphics we have right now are fine, all things considered. I mean, come on, it's portable, you butt-ass. Another minor peeve I have is the lack of entertainment apps like Netflix or Pornhub, Crunchyroll, but those will probably be here before long and make this video feel more dated than it will by the fact that I'm even mentioning it right now. And the last thing that didn't make the Switch shit list is Nintendo's paid online service because it's not fully functional yet. And while the Splatoon headset has me a little skeptical about what Nintendo might have in mind for this program, it's too early to just say it sucks. And even if it does suck at first, N-Dog can still iron the kinks out. So until then, I'll hold the complaints at bay outside of the headset situation. Cause Jesus Christmas, this is no good. And as far as the bending issue goes, that's a rare defect, not something that's standard, so I'm not gonna count that as a fault, especially when Nintendo will fix it for free if you do have that issue. But now to finish my quota for being a dick to the Switch so I can officially not be a Nintendo fanboy anymore, which brings us to number 1. The cartridges. One of the coolest things about the Switch is actually one of the worst things as well. I know they're technically game cards, but frig off, calling them cartridges is way more fun. They don't scratch, they look cool, and taste amazing. The problem here, though, is the amount of storage each card holds. My anonymous source at Nintendo, who only wishes to be identified as FUgameCrue, told me that an 8GB cartridge costs the same as an Xbox One or PS4 disc, and those hold about 50 gigs. Nintendo does make Switch carts that hold 16 or 32 gigabytes, but they're expensive as shirt, which is fine for Nintendo since their games typically aren't that big, and if the N-Boys made a game that required more expensive carts, they'd probably get it for cheaper than everybody else anyway. But for third-party companies that want to put bigger games on the Switch, it's just more economic to pay for the cheaper 8GB cartridges and make everybody download the rest of the game to their console, which, as I've stated before, makes buying a microSD card for the Switch pretty much mandatory. And it's kinda lame that companies look at the more expensive carts and just think, we're not paying extra for game carts. Let's just make customers pay for extra storage and not even fit the entire game on the physical media. And that's why this is the worst thing about the Switch to me. Because if an entire game isn't even on the cartridge, then you're just buying a physical copy of a digital game, which defeats the entire purpose of physical media. The whole appeal is supposed to be once you buy it, it's yours forever. But if there's an apocalypse in 20 years and you find a Switch with a copy of Doom, you're not gonna be able to play the full game without internet. Never mind the apocalypse, once the Switch's online services inevitably end, these games will pretty much be bricked outside of the title screens, unless you downloaded the data to your console beforehand. I know a lot of companies have been doing this for a while with PS4 and Xbox One games, but why is it okay? I understand Day 1 patches polishing things up a bit here and there, that's fine, but if you're gonna put a game on physical media, then it better be fully playable on Day 1 without any updates. If you find a Super Nintendo cartridge lying around, you've got the full game right there ready to go. Nowadays, game companies are abusing the internet as a way to be lazy. Like, oh wow, we don't even have to finish the game till the release date. Alright, send them out now, we'll finish the rest later, don't worry. If it's a game that's made for being played online, then I totally get that. But why'd everybody get so mad at the idea of the Xbox One requiring the internet to play games if we're all just gonna lay back and accept this peen being jammed in our ear holes rather than our bum-bums? In the end, we're still being frigged. And I know the controversy with the Xbox One was that it was gonna require you to be online to even start a game, but having to download games despite owning physical copies isn't much better. You should be able to play an entire game Day 1 without the internet. You shouldn't have to download a full game after you put the arbitrary physical media in the system proving you bought a digital version. But back to the Switch, I would have no problem paying more for a physical copy if it meant having the full game being immortalized on a 16 or 32GB cartridge. But most people don't seem to care, so third parties are gonna keep stiffing us. And even if the cartridges are as cheap as they can possibly be, the whole point of this video is to find faults with the Switch. And this is the only thing that I really just can't stand about it. I wouldn't have a problem if an 80GB game used an 8GB card, since you'd already have to download some of the game anyway, seeing as how 32GB cartridges are as high as it goes. If that were the case, then why not let the developer save some money? After all, selling games is never a guarantee, especially in the eyes of third parties who are just testing the waters of the Switch right now. But Nintendo really should look into figuring out a way to make the bigger cartridges cheaper. Although one positive thing I have to say about this whole debacle is that the cartridges that are under 8GB on the Switch are cheaper to make than the physical media to any other console. So it's pretty cool that smaller indie games are cheaper and easier to make physical copies for. I'm sure most of the things I mentioned will change over time, especially if a new Switch model comes out 2 or 3 years down the line. But until then, these are the downsides of Nintendo's sexy little hybrid console. What do you wish was done better about the Switch? Was there anything I made too big a deal out of? Let me know down below, and as always, I'll pin the most entertaining comment. Don't forget to like and share this video if you want to help this channel build some street cred. Click these videos if you think I was being too harsh on Nintendo here. And if you're a legendary badass that nobody dares cross, then hit the subscribe button. My name's Cameron, and I'll see you next time.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.